Hi, everyone. Welcome to my talk in the Seed Fate Symposium. Today, I'll be talking about upslope seed dispersal potential and optimal germination temperature, and how these shape current and potentially future ranges of tropical plants, especially considering a suite of species of large woody species in a tropical mountain in northwestern Costa Rica. So we all know that the world is warming incredibly fast due to human anthropogenic effects in the Anthropocene. And as the Earth warms, we are already seeing and we're expecting much more rapid upslope ecosystem shifts. So in the tropics especially, if animals and plants in the lowlands can't tolerate or adapt quickly to new hotter temperatures, they have to move up mountains. They have to shift upslope. And because plants are sessile organisms, except when they're seeds, I am really interested in knowing how plants are going to get to these new habitats as ecosystems shift upslope. How are plants going to get there? One way that plants can move around and move up tropical mountains is by using animals. And in the case of the seeds that I'll be talking about today, I'm talking about large terrestrial mammals, so things like peccaries, agoutis, tapirs. So there's this concept I like to present called seed elevators. So here you can see a peccary as a little elevator, and it's actually in the lowlands, it's ranging around, it's eating seeds, it's swallowing seeds, and it's moving upslope. Maybe it's tracking a fruiting phenology or something like that. And it's depositing seeds as it moves upslope. So it's taking seeds from the lowlands, it's shifting ecosystems, it's moving upslope as it's tracking something while it moves up in this kind of vertical seed dispersal, and it's dropping seeds, it's pooping them out, it's spitting them out, it's carrying them and putting these seeds into new upslope environments as the seed elevator moves around. So keep that concept in mind when we're thinking about what I present to you today. This is the study site, so Volcan Barva in northwestern Costa Rica, where La Selva Biological Station is at the base of this tropical mountain. It ranges up to 2,800 meters above sea level, and the lowlands are about 0 to 500 meters above sea level. So when I talk about the lowlands, I'm mentioning the life zone of tropical lowland wet forest, spanning about 0 to 500 meters. The average daily temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. You can get lows and highs of 20 and 30 degrees Celsius, respectively. So it's already pretty warm in the lowlands. A lot of people think that organisms are already living close to their thermal maxima. So I want to know what happens to lowland seeds if they can shift upslope and survive. I'll be talking also about tropical pre-montane forest at 1,000 meters. The temperature is a little bit cooler up there. And finally, another site that I'll be discussing is this tropical montane forest site located around 2,000 meters above sea level. And again, you can see the temperatures dropping a little bit more as you shift upslope. There's also cloud forest on this mountain, but we're not going to be talking about that today. So getting into the experiments that I ran and some of the data that I'll present to you today, I'm presenting a subset of kind of a larger experiment just because I'm really restricted with time. So if you're really interested in this, contact me by email, ask me questions when we have our Q&A period, and I can go into a little bit more detail. I'd be happy to explain more about this project with you. So thinking about the field experiments, we did seedling transplants. So we used 5 lowland species, 3 palms, the Arcaceae, and 2 Fabaceae. These are large seeded seeds and seedlings that come from large seeds. So every seed is at least 2-3 centimeters in diameter. They're very large. So we had control treatments, which you can see with the blue arrows. So we took these lowland species, they're naturally found, not above 500 meters in elevation, and we took them and transplanted them as a control group in their native elevation in the lowlands. And we also had an upslope transplant treatment in 1,000 meters where we took these lowland species and shifted them into pre-montane forest. And we also had an even larger upslope shift into the 2,000 meter montane forest. And we assessed seedling survival in all 3 of these treatments for all of these 5 species. And sample sizes, things like that, we had about 20 individuals of each species at each elevation that we moved around. So overall, lowland seedlings did their best at middle elevations, which was really surprising. So in the lowlands, they were attacked by herbivores pretty significantly. So this is their native elevation. They faced a lot of mortality due to branch fall, tree fall in the lowlands. But at middle elevations, we had really high survival after a year. So here you can see the proportion of seedlings alive on the y-axis over time in days on the x-axis for each of these figures, representing each of those 5 species. The little green circles show the highest survival after that 1-year census. And for the most part, it's in the middle elevations in the pre-montane forest. 100% of the seedlings died within the year at the 2,000 meter elevation. So it's probably due to increased moisture and cooler temperatures, but we're still kind of digging into the mortality agents at that elevation. But basically 100% mortality in the 2,000 meter site, very high survival in the lower elevations, especially that middle elevation. The lowlands suffered fair amounts of mortality, and most of that was due to biotic agents and tree falls. So the middle elevations were great. Seedlings did very well, despite that not being their native habitat. They were able to jump ecosystems upslope. So shifting from this field transplant experiment into the lab, we also had 6 lab treatments where we looked at germination of those same 5 lowland specific species. You can see we had 6 incubators. These are static temperature incubators. We're shifting this now for dynamic temperatures, but for this experiment, we only used static constant temperatures at each of those treatments. So 10 degrees, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35 degrees Celsius. And this range of temperatures represented the min, mean, max, and the max plus 5 degrees Celsius, or the what we're calling global warming temperature for these seeds. And again, think back to the averages, the average temperatures they're experiencing in the lowlands. We wanted to make them experience cooler temperatures and hotter temperatures and see how they germinated. So we measured germination success over time for all 5 of those species. So here you can see the figures. Again, the 3 palms are at the top and the 2 Fabaceae are at the bottom. Percent of germination on the y-axis over time represented in days. And overall, and again, this was kind of surprising to me, lowland species were able to germinate very, very well at high temperatures, some of them at extremely high temperatures. So even beyond what they would normally experience and into that global warming temperature treatment that we had. They didn't do well in the colder temperatures, which also kind of was reflected in our seedling transplant experiments where seedlings didn't do well in the colder temperatures at higher elevations. But it seems that these large seeds are almost buffered, or they just do really well at high temperatures, and they're able to have really high germination success. Some of these, like the Pentaclethra macroloba in the bottom right, did extremely well, 100% germination at the global warming temperature and below. But again, the colder temperatures they did not like. So what does this all mean for plant migrations, for plant shifts up tropical mountains in the Anthropocene? Going back to our basic questions at the start that I threw at you, do upslope barriers exist to prevent plant range expansions? At 1,000 meters? No, not for these 5 species. We saw very high seedling survival. In fact, higher survival at middle elevations compared to their native habitats. However, at 2,000 meters, that even bigger elevational jump, yes, we did see a strong abiotic barrier to seedling survival. Can lowland seeds tolerate warming? Yeah, they really can. We're kind of working with this further and incorporating dynamic temperature setups now, but large seeds of the Fabaceae and Ericaceae were very resilient to warming, which is good in terms of how fast our climate is warming. Can upslope plant movements outpace global warming? We're not sure. So we're still working on this, and we have ongoing experiments tracking seeds and hopefully animals in the future to look at seed elevators. So kind of going back to the big picture, plant-animal interactions are integral to healthy forests. Seed arrival to new upslope habitats is possible, maybe. We're still doing these experiments, but we need more on-the-ground data on fates and animal tracking. Seedlings do well at some novel upslope habitats. And again, large seeds are very tolerant to global warming and can potentially avoid the effects of lowland biotic attrition. So that was a really quick overview of everything. If you do have questions, ask me in the Q&A or send me an email here. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.